Hello, everyone, and welcome to Master the Virtual Interview. I am Lauren Moy, and I'm with Graduate Business Career Relations. And even before the pandemic, virtual interviewing was becoming more popular. But of course, during the pandemic, it grew with more popularity, and virtual interviewing is here to stay. In today's session, you will learn about how virtual interviews work, and I'm going to share tips and strategies to help you prepare for that virtual interview. You're going to be applying for jobs, and you're going to be working so hard to get an interview. You want every interview to count. And we're also going to talk about strategies so that you can grow your confidence and ace the virtual interview. According to HireVue, and that's a company that gives virtual interviewing software to other companies, 86% of companies are using virtual interview technology, and that was based on a Forbes article from March 2020. That number is probably a little bit higher even today. And when companies use the virtual interviewing software, it helps them to reach more candidates in less time. And it really saves a lot of time and money as for both the company, and it could also save time and money for you as a candidate, because you're not spending time emailing back and forth with the recruiter, trying to schedule an interview, and also you're not traveling. So that saves on those costs as well. And in human resources, it really has increased productivity as a lot of the recruiting reps are not spending a lot of time doing all of that back and forth, as I was just talking about, interviewing and scheduling and all of that. So there are a lot of benefits to companies, and then some benefits to candidates as well. So there are two types of virtual interviews. The first one is the on-demand virtual interview. And this is when you as a candidate would use video recording software to record your answers to questions. And then you will send that video will be sent back to the employer for their assessment. And it's using AI technology to do that assessment. The second one is the live virtual interview, and that's conducted online, real time, and it's using video conferencing technology like Zoom or Teams or Google Meet. Those are the most popular ones. So I also wanted to say, students, if you have any questions, if you could write them down, and we will have a time of Q&A at the end. Okay, so how virtual interviewing works? Well, it's integrated with the applicant tracking systems. You may have been with us when Patrick Halton talked about leveraging AI for resume and job search success. And so what a lot of companies do is they use that software first, and that's AI technology scanning for keywords on your resume, keywords related to the job posting. And if your resume has, let's say, 75% keyword matching, then your resume gets moved into the pile or the list of candidates that they will submit the video to for you to do the interviewing. And then AI would rate it. And when we say AI, artificial intelligence looks for intonation, tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, word choice, which are the key words. And those that have the highest scores are the ones that get brought in for, let's say, either an in-person interview, or maybe they'll have that interview via Zoom or Teams at that point. Could be that second level interview. So you really want to bring your virtual best to the interview. And so important that you check your technology in advance. You want your web camera to be in the, for you to be framed in the center of your camera. And also you want to be assured that your microphone is in good working order, that that you're not too soft and you're not too loud, and that your internet is strong, and that the lighting is behind your camera and it's not behind you, because if the lighting is behind you, then all that the recruiter will see is like this flash of light into their camera, and then you're not going to score well. And then power up your laptop or phone in advance. Make sure it's fully charged. Also, make sure that your background is very professional looking. So you want to choose a neutral and neat, organized background. Sometimes what you might want to do is use a virtual background, but choose an office setting similar to what you see in that picture. You don't want to choose a vacation spot or, something from Star Wars, or, you think maybe you're getting creative, but really just a plain background is best, nothing that's distracting. And also you want to close down any other apps you may have open so that there'll be no problems with how your technology is working that day. Regarding your dress, wear the same attire as you would wear if you had an in-person interview. So, well, at least dress professionally from the waist up. Okay, wear dark and solid colors as opposed to stripes or patterns, which are more distracting. You could also take a look at that company's website to see what people are wearing at that company. And if you're not sure, it's better to be dressed more formally, overdressed than underdressed. When you're getting ready, you should have your attachments at your disposal, which is your resume, your job posting, cover letter, any supporting documents. And then have notes close by that you might want to refer to. A trick that you could do is you could write your elevator pitch, let's say examples of different interview stories, write them on index cards. And because the interview is virtual, you can tape them to the back of your computer right next to the camera. And so you're looking at the camera, but you're also reading your notes at the same time, and the interviewer wouldn't know that. So the other thing is you may want to take some notes by hand just to remember some things that the interviewer is asking you, but try not to lose eye contact. And also have a glass of water nearby. So you want to have everything at your disposal so that you don't have any distractions or have to get up for any reason. Okay, you want to minimize distractions, and you want to put pets somewhere where you can't hear them. I don't know if you've been on some of these virtual meetings, but I have seen a speaker talk and I see their dog or cat walking by in the background. It can be very distracting. So you don't want that to happen. Also, close your windows and put cell phones on silent mode. What some people do is actually put like a do not disturb meeting in progress on their door, just in case maybe you're sharing an apartment with others and you don't want someone to bother you while you're having an interview. Nonverbal communication is so important. And actually, 93% of communication is nonverbal. So you want to make eye contact with the interviewer. Again, you want to be looking at the camera, not at the computer screen. And if you wear eyeglasses, wear them during your practice sessions to make sure that there's no glare on them, because that could affect how you score also in the AI technology. So if there's a lot of glare, it's not going to score well. Now, important thing is to be yourself and be enthusiastic, have a lot of energy, smile. Smiling is so important because smiling projects confidence. And also sit up straight, have good posture. In the beginning, when you're meeting with an employer, you want to have a virtual a greeting. So when we were meeting in person, though, you would have a handshake. So in this case, it would be a virtual wave. Hi, nice to meet you. You want to practice with the technology in advance, and you want to record your answers on your cell phone or a laptop so that you can see what you look like, hear what you look like, and make adjustments before you have the actual interview. Also, I highly recommend that you use Big Interview. You can access that through Hofstra.edu/careerhub. Big Interview is a great place for you to practice virtual interviewing. You can choose a general interview, or you can choose an interview by industry. And I just want to mention an example. So a student who was an accounting major used Big Interview. And what he did was he set up an appointment with me. And what we did was we reviewed the video recorded answers that he had the most problems with. So he said, you know, Lauren, I'm good with questions 1 and 2, but let's go over my answers for questions 3, 4, and 5. So it was really a great way to maximize his time and help him to prepare well. And he also used the industry questions, which would be for accounting. And he landed the interview with Burden LLP. You want to practice your elevator pitch. So when you go to a career fair or a networking event, and also when you go on the job interview, quite often that first question they're going to ask you is, tell me about yourself. So in the interview, you really want your question to be your answer to be targeted towards what the job posting says, really targeted to what that employer is looking for. Right? You don't want to give that general elevator pitch maybe that you give to all employers, because you want the reaction from that recruiter to be, wow, this student really knows what I'm looking for. For example, I could say, hi, my name is Lauren Moy, and I'm an MBA in Business Analytics and Marketing student at Hofstra University. I'll be graduating in May 2022. And I see, and last summer I had a internship with Viacom in digital marketing, and I'm great at Google Analytics, SQL, and I'm also great at social media, and I have many different projects that I can talk to you about those skills. And I'm looking for an opportunity to work at a company to help you grow your brand and sales, which I did in my digital marketing internship. Okay, so you just want to adjust your pitch to what that employer is looking for. You want to also prepare your star stories. So star stories are your interview stories, and you really want them to be relevant. So a star story would use this acronym STAR: situation, task, action, and result. And you want to use keywords from the job posting. You want to keep your stories concise, not more than 2 minutes long. You don't want to memorize it because you don't want to sound robotic, but you want to memorize maybe just the keywords. For example, many employers are going to ask you, can you give me an example that shows you have strong teamwork skills or strong leadership skills? So here's a teamwork story. So the situation was, I was a summer intern for internal audit at Dime Bank last summer, and at the end of every month, we had a lot of processing to do, and there were some really tight deadlines. But what happened was, I completed my work ahead of time, but my coworker was sick and was not in the office that day. And what I did was, I told my supervisor that I would step up and stay late that day to make sure that the team met its deadlines. And as a result, we as a team were able to meet our monthly deadlines, and my supervisor, as well as my coworker, thanked me for my contribution. So that's a story. So I could just say, oh, I'm a great team player and I help out. But when you have a story, you talk about the situation or the problem, what you did, and then you have a clear result, they make the best interview stories. Some other results could be, you found you were looking at account reconciliations and you found a mistake, and after you corrected the mistake, you saved the company $10,000. Or, you were reviewing, maybe you were a market research intern, and maybe one of the problems that they were having at the company was that they were having client retention issues, and you created a survey to the customers, and then you analyzed it and made recommendations to management, and then they implemented the recommendations, and your client retention rates went up by 20%. That's another story. So you'll be surprised, there are so many different interview stories from your own resume. So you really want to bring out the best ones to the interview, and you really want them to be relevant for the job that you're going after. To prepare your answers to these questions for the interview, the first one we went over already, which is, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work for us? This is where you want to research the company. You really want to know some facts about the company. Perhaps you're applying to Northwell Health, right? So perhaps they say, why do you want to work for us? Well, I was doing research on Northwell Health, and I know that Northwell is a great company to work for. Northwell Health was in Fortune 100's top companies to work for, and it's the only New York health system company ranked in that category. And I know that it's a great company because many of the other MBA students in my classes work at Northwell, and they tell me what a great company it is to work for. Okay, so what do you like most about the position? And this is where you want to look at the job posting. You really want to study the job posting in advance. And you want to mention the different responsibilities that you have experience with, so that you can show that you can add value. And what are your strengths? So again, look at the job posting, look at the qualifications on the bottom. Have at least 3 or 4 star stories related to some of the qualifications they're looking for. And then what is one weakness? So you want to choose a weakness that you've been working on improving. So this is an example. So you could say something like, well, one of my weaknesses was that I was nervous talking in front of a group. And so I've been working on my presentation skills. And as a ZARB Hofstra MBA student, I've had a lot of practice giving group presentations. And I'm also an officer in one of the graduate clubs, and I've had to talk to other students there. And I've really improved, and I feel less nervous, and I've really been growing in this area. And I'm going to continue to improve my presentation skills. So you want to focus more on how you've been improving. What is your greatest accomplishment? You want to have a story about that. And what are your career goals? So in this, you want to think about, where do you want to be in 5 years if you were at that actual company? So you don't try to, answer something that's way off base that has nothing to do with that company. And also tell me about a conflict you had with a boss or coworker. So in this example, you're saying, well, I haven't really had any big conflicts with anybody. So it could be that you actually just had a difference of opinion, or maybe just different ideas. You're working on a project, you thought it should be one way, and then your boss or coworker thought it should be another way. Maybe you brought your ideas together and collaborated and actually came up with an even better solution. So that makes a good story. And then, why did you leave your last position? So you have to be careful here. You may have had a difficult boss, or something really negative happened while you left, but you never want to say anything bad about a past employer. So you want it to be about, well, I was looking for a new opportunity in X. So make it more about what you're looking for. So there's still a lot of remote work going on. There's more hybrid work going on now. Some companies have gone back in person, but as companies are interviewing candidates, they're looking for candidates that have emotional intelligence, right? So that's somebody that can understand and control their own emotions, and also understand the emotions of others. And so that whole question about describing a conflict and how you resolved it, and or maybe you worked with a difficult customer and you stayed calm under pressure, and you were able to change the mind of that customer and help them, and then make them a happy customer. So those are all examples of that. They're also looking for students that can take initiative, because if you're doing remote work, people are not going to be looking over your shoulder. They need to be able to trust that you're going to be dependable, and you're going to do your work on your own and take initiative. So this is a great question on an interview. Describe a problem you faced and when you recommended and implemented a solution, because it shows that you also have problem-solving skills. If you have an example like that, you want to definitely include that in your interview stories. That will help you get hired. Also, time management skills. Give me an example when you had to accomplish multiple tasks while meeting tight deadlines. And also, I mentioned the leadership and teamwork, and that you're also flexible and independent. So all of these qualities are really important to employers, regardless of what your major is. So prepare your star stories in advance. Other strategies: you want to impress the employer with your knowledge of the company. You want to find and practice interview questions. If you go to glassdoor.com, people that have had interviews at that company will tell you what some of the questions were that they were asked. Also, you want to practice your interviewing skills while you are applying to jobs, because you're all really busy students, and when you find out you have an interview, you may only have 1 to 2 days to prepare for the interview, and you may also have a project to complete or other assignments. So you want to prepare those star stories and your elevator pitch now, so that the day before the interview, what you're doing is really tweaking your stories to be more relevant for that employer, but you're not starting from scratch. And then you also appear more confident in the interview because you've already been practicing your interview answers. Optimize your endings to questions. So before I said to summarize, when I was telling that story about being a team player, I could say, so to summarize, I'm a team player. I'm willing to pitch in at any time to help someone on the team so that the whole team wins. Right? So also network to find out more about what the company needs. So here's another example of a student who was applying for a position at Henry Schein. And through doing a virtual chat with an alumnus, she found out that they were looking for someone that had experience training people on new technology. And so when she went on the interview, she was able to have an interview story all about the time that she was in American Express, and she managed the migration of a new system and created a training manual for the staff and trained the staff, and uh, and that it went the whole transition came across flawlessly, right? So she had a relevant story to tell, and that was something that that company was looking for in that position. It wasn't written on a job posting. She knew about that need just because she spoke to someone and found that out. And of course, you know, she got the job. Again, I also want to mention to try to get multiple interviews. So a mistake I see for some students is they apply to, let's say, 10 jobs or 20 jobs, they get one interview. And then they focus all their time on that one interview and they stop applying to jobs. And so they put all their eggs in one basket. What happens sometimes, especially if it's only your first interview, you may not do that well on your first interview. But the more interviews you go on, the more practice you have, the more confidence you will build, and then you will land that offer. So try to keep applying until you have multiple interviews. It puts less pressure on you also when you're going on that interview. And then hopefully you may even get one or two job offers. The other thing is to take a few deep breaths before you go on the interview and just get out any jitters you may have. Regarding the on-demand interviewing software, this is what you can expect. This is what a screen looks like. So there will be instructions, and it'll say read the platform instructions carefully, and you want to do that. Don't rush. Read the instructions carefully. And then they'll give you the opportunity to practice with 1 to 2 questions before the real interview. Take your time and do that. And then 30 seconds to prepare each question. And then usually about 2 to 6 minutes, 2 to 6 questions, and then 20 minutes for the whole interview. So that's why I was saying, try to keep your interview stories to 2 minutes or less. And then you will notice the countdown clock so you can see how much time you have left. So in this case, there's 3 minutes left. And so you can keep your eye on that so that you don't get cut off. Don't feel like you have to use up all the time. What's more important is that your answers are clear and concise and compelling. Okay. Be ready with questions for the interviewer. That's so important, because if you get to the end of the interview and the interviewer says, "What questions do you have for me?" and you say, "I don't have any questions, you answered them all," what are they going to think? They're going to think either you didn't do your homework or you're really not that interested in the position. So the other thing is it's so important to have questions because you are also interviewing that company to see whether or not they're a good fit for you. So it also goes the other way. Here are some questions you might want to ask. What would success ideally look like if I was in this role? If I did an extraordinary job in this role, what goals would I reach in 6 to 12 months? So you could get the idea. I'm not going to read them all, they're on the screen. But you really want to have some questions to ask them, and questions that shows that you did your homework. So I was reading on your website that you have a management training program. There are 3 6 months rotations. Could you tell me a little bit more about those rotations? Okay. Then after the interview, you want to express thanks for the interviewer's time. And you don't want to just send them a thank you email that's very short that just says, thank you for your time. It was great meeting with you. You want to briefly reinforce why you're interested and why you're a good match for the position. Also, think about the interview and think about what you discussed that the interviewer was really interested about in your answer, that you could tell that that was a good answer. So consider adding something about that into the email. And a really great idea is if during the interview, the company mentions a problem that they're having, and you could suggest a solution to that problem if they hired you that you could do for them. That would be a great way to show that you're the right person for the job. And it could actually help you have a leg up on the competition. And then close your email by reiterating your appreciation for the interview and asking about next steps. All right, so next steps. Practice your elevator pitch and your relevant star stories. You want to have at least 5. Check your tech in advance. And again, practice using big interview and try to network with alumni before the interview so that you can find out what the needs are of that actual department. And then you could tailor your answers so that your stories are really relevant. And then make an appointment for a mock interview with us at gbcr at Hofstra.edu and ask your questions.